Peace, love, and blessings, everyone. Thank you once again for all the support. You guys are really helping us grow this page so we can get this content out to everyone that needs it. Today, we want to do a video on building rapport with shippers and brokers, and which is something that's very important. You want to be able to build these relationships for your business. So,
Right. The goal is, at the end of the day, is not to always rely on the load board. The load board definitely comes handy, obviously if you're looking for loads and things like that. But really the go-to thing would be first to contact the brokers and shippers that you have a relationship with and that you have built those relationships with. We actually did this video because we had a couple people ask for this information, so we definitely hope that this helps. The information that we're going to share on how we the type of list that I carry, I'm going to say it from more of a dispatcher. I'll say from more of a dispatcher / broker point of view on what I'm looking for, as far as wanting to work with another broker, and even a broker wanting to work with a carrier. So I'll do the flip and all that, so you can kind of get an understanding of what that looks like. And then he's going to tell you from more of a carrier perspective on what that needs to look like, because honestly it's a two-way street. If I'm a great dispatcher and my driver is always late for pickups, it's always just like, something going on, never gives accurate ETAs, just kind of all over the place. There's only so much that I can do. And what a lot of carriers don't understand is that us as dispatchers, we take a lot of slack for that. We're the ones that get cursed out. Ask him, do we not get cursed out?
yes.
We're the ones that get cursed out. We're the ones that get these nasty emails, and and all we're doing is, honestly, because we work on the carrier's behalf, we're really just trying to cover you. So definitely works out two ways. I say that because I can only cover you so much. I'm definitely going to do my diligence in making sure that we get a lot of new authority. So I'm kind of speaking from that perspective as well. I'm going to do my diligence of making sure that your authority matures nicely, that you have a great authority, that if you decide, to go elsewhere after a year or so, you're going to be able to do that because your authority is in good standing, because I did good business. But on the flip end of that, I need the carriers to make sure that they're doing the same. Because it's a team, we're a team. I can't be giving ETAs, and that's the information I'm giving and giving that to the broker, and then that's not, realistic of what it even is. So that's what we're going to kind of go over. But do you want to say anything in that?
So in building a rapport with the shippers, brokers, and your dispatchers, you first of all have to be honest with your time when you get the load, or when your dispatcher is giving you the load and running it by you. You have to be honest. This is a business. It's not about, you can't be so much of a people pleaser. It's business, right? So if you can't make the load, you need to communicate that you can't make the load. There's been so many times that I've been given loads that are just not possible. And sometimes the broker just doesn't know that. They don't know your hours, and they're not really supposed to know that. Their job is to get the load and give it out to the carrier. So it's your job to communicate, like, this is not possible, or I can do it, but this is what my ETA is going to be, which may be different than the time to deliver or pick up on the Raycon. So you have to be honest. You have to know what you can do, how many hours you can drive for each day to deliver this load. And when you do that, I would calculate your ETA based on 50 miles an hour, right? Not 60, not 70, because there's going to be delays. There's going to be delays. And if you're going to hit a major city, you have to include traffic. If you're going to be in bad weather, there's a lot of bad weather on the east right now, you have to include delays for the bad weather. And sometimes you won't be penalized if it's a bad weather delay. You just really have to communicate. Communication is very important in this business, from every standpoint, not just the carrier, the dispatcher, the broker as well. So really be honest enough to communicate that. And as you're doing that, you're going to build rapport with your dispatcher and the broker, because they know, like, this carrier communicates. They let us know what their ETA is. They let us know when they're going to be there, what's going on, where they're at in between and while they're en route. So you want to reach out and do those things, and that will separate you, and it will build rapport with your dispatcher and the broker.
And he gave those numbers based upon a semi. So that
Right.
is him running a 53-foot, reefer that we run refrigerated freight. So those were numbers based upon a semi. Obviously, if you're in a box truck, because I know we have a huge box truck following, those numbers are going to be a little bit different because you're not in a 53-foot. But he's right. Communication, honestly, is a key to all of this. I have to, as your dispatcher, that's why I always tell all my dispatchers that onboard with me, build a relationship with your carriers. Because that's so important, because we have to have a good relationship as far as honesty and trust, that goes on in this, because honestly, I'm your face, or I would say your voice. You don't really see the brokers. I'm your voice for your business. So when you're reaching out, the dispatcher's reaching out to brokers for loads and things like that, I mean, it's your dispatcher that's speaking on your behalf. So going back to when hiring a dispatcher, you want someone experienced, you want someone that knows the industry, you want someone that can communicate well on your end. And you have to think about that too. Like, I know a lot of people don't think about that, but like, can this person communicate well? Do they communicate with me well? Like, do they answer the phone when I need them? Do they think about all that stuff? Because if they're not doing that with you, they're probably not doing that with the broker. And honestly, that is how you build rapport. So I'm going to speak first coming from a broker standpoint. As y'all know, prior to this, I was a broker for a couple of years. So from a broker standpoint, whenever I decided that I wanted to make that my primary carrier, which brokers have that, it's called their primary carrier for certain lanes and loads. The carrier always ran the load a couple times for me. And honestly, I'm really trying to see is communication. I don't really care if the truck broke down or anything like that. That happens. That's freight. I'm trying to see if something happened, do they communicate with me without me having to reach them? If I'm having to call them all the time and giving asking them, where's my truck, what city it's in, what's this, what's that, then to me as a broker, I mean, that's more work, because now not only am I having to build my relationships with my shippers and keep them updated, but now I'm having to chase after my carriers. Like, that's too much work. And honestly, what made me so upset is dispatchers. Sometimes it wasn't even the carriers. It was dispatchers that would not communicate. It's like they booked the load and I would never hear from them again. I would never hear from the dispatcher again. And I would always then if I couldn't get a hold of the dispatcher, then I would start reaching the carrier, because I need to know where my load is at that point. So from a broker standpoint, it is all about communication. What I like to do with the trucks that I dispatch for is I do a lot of stuff in email form. And I know that's not like the best. I know a lot of people are like, no, just call. But I have learned, and we have learned, everything needs to be in writing. So
documentation.
So if you want to call, that's fine. That's a great thing to do. Send an email, then call. But make sure everything is in writing, because that always somehow tries to come back, on you. And you need to have proof of the fact that, this is when was said, and a timestamp. This is when it was sent. So at that point, it's on the broker. And I mean, like, when problems happen, we had a situation with a load with him, and it was like I spoke to the broker and I told him that load is not possible. That load is not possible for him to make. We discussed when the delivery would be. Long story short, another broker, it wasn't the same broker that I booked the load with. Another broker came back that was really actually his load and was upset that we were gonna be a day late. And I was like, you needed a team for that. There is just no way that this load would have been legally delivered on time. And honestly, most of that stuff could have been avoided if everything was in writing. So I say that because that was a mistake on my end. So I want y'all to see it. I mean, I make mistakes as well, but it's a learning experience in a sense of I learned at that point, and it didn't matter. I said I called this guy, and I've talked to this guy like 3 or 4 times, double checking, triple checking, making sure it didn't matter. There was nothing in writing that I could show that this other guy that I booked the load with, we discussed that. So that's just something that, like I said, we had to learn the hard way. Obviously he was pissed at me. Obviously he was upset at me. but it was really a learning thing. It's like, honestly, I'm normally am an email person because I am so busy that talking on the phone, that's just not my thing. Email me, please. But I just was really trying to book him, and we just got into the conversation of booking that truck. And when he told me the ETA, I knew off the bat, that could make it. So how I calculate my semis is 500 miles a day. 500 miles a day. So 505, if the load is 1,100 miles, that I'm looking at, that's a 2-day, third day, morning delivery. That's what I'm looking at. That's a great rule for dispatchers to follow. And honestly, that's how a lot of brokers, that is how they calculate their loads as far as when the load is supposed to deliver, unless they get these outrageous, shippers that want these other things and they try to be cheap about it and they don't want to do a team. That's when the dispatcher, really, that's your job to come in and say, that's not possible. You need a team for this load. Like, why is this, a one driver load? That doesn't make sense. So coming from, like I said, broker standpoint, it's communication. Looking for somebody that's going to communicate, send me emails. That was the best type of, honestly, carrier to me. The carrier that sent me emails about where the truck was all the time, I never had to call the truck or talk to the truck. I was always just updating on my end, giving my customer updates. That was the best communication. From a dispatcher point of view, on building rapport with the brokers and shippers, is the same thing. It's communication. Brokers will use you again if they know that it's a two-way street. If they know that you communicate well, if your price is fair. Now, I'll say that because y'all are tripping on some of these social media outlets on what you want for these loads. That's great. By all means, go get your $11 a mile, $10 a mile loads. But I'm telling you, what that does in the long term on some of these loads or lanes is it really hurts you. Because I'm telling you, from a broker standpoint, I'm not using you again. I'm not going to even call you because your number was not even in the ballpark of what it should be. And the whole point of this is that we build relationships so that you're reaching out to me, for loads and stuff. So why am I going to shoot you some outrageous numbers? Like, be fair about it. No, I'm not telling you to take, under $2 a mile, but I am telling you to be realistic about, the rates that you give, out. And that definitely helps, because when you give realistic rates, I'm telling you, they will come back to you and ask you. I get calls all the time for loads, and most of my trucks are all over the road, so it's so hard for me to match up some of the loads because they're calling me and they're like, hey, do you have your truck in this? I need this load. And honestly, that's because we do great business, we communicate well, our rates are fair. No, I'm not trying to undercut my carriers, but I am making sure that I get fair rates so that we can get more loads and we're not just having to go to the load board all the time for loads. And then also, I only deal with carriers that do good business, period. So as a dispatcher, I will say, it's your business. You have the power to take on whoever you want. That's how I look at it. I look at it like, at the end of the day, this is my dispatch business. This is my name on this. I am not just going to put my name on something with these different brokers if my carriers can't do good business. So I am quick to drop a carrier if I see that they're always late. It's always something. It's always like, you need to go figure that out on your own, because honestly, we're carriers ourselves, and that's not how we do business. So I'm not going to lower my standard, to take on you because you don't know how to do good business. No, that's not what I look for. And why I say that is because I can have great communication with the brokers and shippers on loads, but if my carrier doesn't show up on time, if he doesn't show up on time, if he's not checking in on time, letting me know what's going on, that way that gives me an idea if there's something, that I need to fix or something. I mean, how will I know that? So it's like I said, it's a two-way street. It's a carrier. It's the carrier's job as well to conduct good business and make sure they're doing good businesses. And dispatchers out there, if you're watching this, don't feel like you have to take on just anybody because you need the money or whatever. Like, no, don't stand for that. There's real carriers out here that do good business, that really need and want your help. And what I look at it is like, let those other ones figure it out on their own, It's just not, it's not worth it, and it'll drive you. You're gonna be going crazy because you're gonna be looking for the carrier. Like you're their dispatcher, and you don't even know where this guy is. Like that's crazy to me. Do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I think you pretty much covered it.
I think what a lot of people too want to know is exactly building a list. So we'll go into that. So when we started, I had started building a list of brokers that I like to work with. And that's brokers that were fair on their rate. They're never trying to like, basically scam me on the rates or anything like that. They were fair on the rate. They were fair on pickup delivery times, things like that. And honestly, they were respectful. And you'll see it. And if probably all the people that are carriers, they'll be like, yeah, because these brokers can be very nasty to us. And you know what? That's fine. Whatever. But when my list comes on people that I go out and send my list out to of like, I need loads, this is where my truck is going to be, it goes out to those brokers that honestly are respectful, So what you want to do as you're growing, even if you're carrier, as you're growing it, start writing down and taking note of a list of carriers, brokers that you actually really like working with. The loads are always there. You never have issues on the loads. And if you do have issues, they are fast to problem solve. You want to keep track of that. And you want to keep track of brokers that you don't want to deal with. I mean, there are brokers that we do not deal with. And actually, we will be doing that soon, is coming out with a list of people that we've had great experiences with and people that we haven't. Because honestly, our problems, we want to be able to help y'all. If you see this broker, I'm not saying everybody's experience is the same. But one thing I will say is we've been in this for a while now, and it's like, there's just some brokers, it's not worth the disrespect. It's not worth the games. A lot of you carriers will understand that. It's not worth the games that they play. There are good brokers out there that do good business. So you want to keep track of that. As far as building rapport with shippers, that was somebody that asked me a question on doing a video on that. For a carrier, that's a little different, because as a carrier, if you go to a shipper and say, hey, I'm looking to run your freight, this and this and that, a lot of times shippers want to know that you have multiple trucks. So if you don't have multiple trucks and your truck breaks down and you have a lane that picks up every Monday and you'll have a contract, so your lane picks up every Monday, delivers Tuesday, and your truck breaks down, well, guess what? You can't fulfill that contract, right? So then what happens? So I think a lot of carriers need to, realize that a lot of these shippers, they don't mind dealing directly with carriers, but you have to have a plan A, B, and C to make sure that you fulfill those contracts that you get with your shippers. That's why a lot of shippers use brokers, is because brokers have access to multiple trucks. Brokers have softwares, DAT board, and there's other softwares out there that brokers use to find multiple trucks. So they're not relying on just one carrier all the time to run that load. So if you are trying to build a rapport with shippers, it's a lot of cold calling. It's a lot of probably door knocking, going up to shippers, asking them, can I run this lane for you? Can I run? A lot of times you'll have to kind of undercut the rates that they're already getting just to prove yourself. But at the end of the day, it's like in anything in business, rapport is always about a good business communication, right? That's anything in business. So I guess at the end of the day with this, we're just saying, have great communication where you can start building a list of people that you want to work with, building rapport with brokers and shippers that you want to work with, and also keeping in contact with them. Send them, I have a couple brokers I reach out to every Monday morning and just say, hey, how's it going? And I don't even have trucks where we ran the loads. I'll just say, hey, how's it going? Happy Monday or something, something funny or something like that. But that makes me memorable, in that situation. And guess what? When they have loads, because they know I'm a big box truck person. So they know if they ever have box truck, they know to run to me. So it's just little things like that. Don't just book a load. I was taught from somebody else, what I'm talking about. It's like these people were being rude to these brokers over the phone, and I get it. They can be nasty to you, but don't do that. That is not how you're gonna build rapport with them. If they're being nasty to you, be respectful to them, state your piece, and then just keep it moving. And guess what? They go on the list. We don't do business with them. But at the end of the day, there's no way that you can build rapport with them If you're just off the gate, short, rude, nasty, I could say that we have come a long way in a very short amount of time. And that's obviously all thanks to God. But obviously, I think that's also due to the way we do business with people. We're not rude. We're not condescending to any of the brokers. We're not, and even when they're like that to us,
Yeah.
you know, that's just not the way we do business. And I think that has really paid off in the long term on how we've been able to build this very quickly. So I definitely hope that this helps you. If we didn't answer any questions that you really kind of wanted to know, please feel free to comment or email us. You can go to our website and get our email information. But yeah, hopefully we can do another video. And like I said, please keep the comments coming and let us know what other videos you would like us to do.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on the next one.